Welcome back to Growth Purposes Only podcast with me, your host, Princess Sarafina. Join me Thursdays as we dive into our personal experiences that contribute to our spiritual growth. I pray that whomever is supposed to receive this message, that it reaches you and it uplifts you. Today, I want to talk about a topic that I hold dear to my heart, especially in seasons of transition and tension, is peace. And not the peace that we get from the world, but the one that comes from Christ. So previously, a couple of days ago, I was doing a devotional on just following Jesus. And one of the devotions had something that I want to read word from word. In a culture that applauds self-sufficiency, reliance on God can feel unnatural, but the fruit of that dependence is peace. This hit me because I am I used to be anyway, like a super control freak. So a lot of different things made me feel more at peace when I had to say so. And that was something that I had to learn in my walk. And I'm still learning is to just surrender certain things over to Christ so I can be at peace. And I want to explain the difference in worldly peace and the peace that comes from following Christ. So when I'm in charge, I tend to be a little bit more anxious, worried, or feeling like I always have to know what's going on next so that I can be satisfied with my direction or satisfied with how I led. And that doesn't put me in a place of mental peace. It puts me in a piece of okay, I had the final say, but in my head, I'm overthinking or I'm worried about or I'm concerned with something that may happen depending on what outcome or which strategy I use. So it can be a lot. It can be very mentally draining for someone trying to be in control of every single thing. And honestly, it could also deter people away from you in that situation, depending on where your controlness, where it stems from. Like maybe in work, you're very controlling, or maybe in relationships, and you can lose people and lose opportunities, not letting go and letting God. So that is something that I had to learn for the most part. And then the peace that comes from Christ is really just surrendering those situations over to Christ. And I'm not saying to do absolutely nothing, but to do things in faith, knowing that He is handling everything and that we're co-partners with Him. So for instance, in work related situations, especially when there's tension involved, knowing that you're leading from a place of love, although the other person may not be receiving it in the sense of a loving way. And then you kind of just release that control to control the narrative, and things kind of work out on themselves, whether people expose their heart or if they come to the realization that you weren't leading in the way that they perceived it just from wherever they were projecting. So those are the rewarding situations for me when I just allow Christ, because I'll have a long paragraph typed for somebody that rubs me the wrong way, but I'm realizing that if I truly want peace in this situation where we're not about to go back and forth in a typing war, I need to, hand this over to God. So that's what I've learned to do, especially if I want it to last. If you want it to last, you really can't be in control of that because you can't see the future. You don't know what's coming after every scenario. You may feel right, but we're also dealing with people who are human and flawed. So for a personal story for this whole situation about peace, I really want to talk about is for the past 16 and a half months, I've had my father stay with me. And from season 1, I really touched base on the nature of me and my father's relationship. Growing up, it was very people-pleasing, narcissistic, abused mentally, physically as well. So to welcome him in my home, it was something only Jesus could do. And for 16 and a half months to tolerate, that, because a lot of people get older, but they don't grow up or mature or heal. So learning that I would have to accept him in my home and also accept everything that he came with. And so it was completely God-led, and it was something that I had to realize felt good right then and there, because I thought I was, because I was being obedient, but I had to get into it to realize, woo, this is going to take some enduring to actually stick it through. And I didn't know what the timetable was, but I did have a plan. I saw God about it. I'm like, this is what I want to do. I'm going to invite him here. He can have this, so he can have a place to stay, and I'm going to move elsewhere. Obviously, God laughs at our plans because that's definitely not how it turned out. But either way, I was going to be obedient. And so there were a lot of different times throughout him staying with us was very challenging. Just knowing that a lot of childhood wounds popped back up, him being in the presence of where my daughters were, allowed me to see myself as a younger child. And I started to begin to realize, like, wow, this has a dual purpose. Like, this is not just me opening a door and being Christian, is actually challenging something within myself. So there was like a lot of trauma in this situation. And it allowed me to see myself as a child and do things that I would have probably wanted at the time from my own parents or my mother per se. And I got to be that person. And it allowed me to heal from those wounds from childhood. There were a lot of different times during this day where I was ready for him to go. Like, it was not peaceful at all. It wasn't peaceful because I wasn't in control of the timeline. It wasn't peaceful because things just weren't lined up. He was dealing with health issues along with financial issues. So, and then just mental manipulation. So my children were like kind of pulled into a situation that I wouldn't have naturally put them in. But obviously God's vision and God's purpose is greater than what I had in mind. So while I was also tolerating it, I was also standing up for myself and standing up for them. So it got to show them that, yes, you can love people, but with boundaries, and especially people who have hurt you in your life. So I appreciate the experience. And a lot of times when I was ready for him to go, I started feeling guilty because I'm like, he's not in a healthy state. Does he have someone to even move? Like, he needs stability. So I would wait for opportunities where I'm like, oh, he has a little friend that he's dating. Hopefully this is something. Like, I was always trying to be in control of when the day for him to leave to go. And it still brought those, like I was saying, when I'm in control, it brings anxiousness, worry, tension, because like, you need to go now. And it wasn't flowing the way that I needed to. So I couldn't have peace in my mind, and I couldn't have peace in my home. And I was like it was daunting. Like, I wouldn't want to be home, or I kind of like locked myself in my room type of thing, and just came out when I had to leave. And it kind of put a strain on the relationship with me and my family, my daughters, because they wanted access to things that they normally had access to in their home, and it just wasn't available to them. And then they had to deal with a lot of his health issues themselves, and I think they weren't prepared for. But exposure is everything, because I want them to understand it's okay, and it's taking care of your parents is okay. Like, giving back is okay, and there's going to be times where your parents are difficult, and you still have to love them anyway. So it was a really good example for them. And for me, I realized like I was honestly healing parts of me. But then there came times where I was like, you know what, Lord, I am tired. I'm crying. I'm like, I just want this to be over with. My daughter's crying because he's picking on her, or he's like taunting her. And I'm just like, I know this not your intention. Like, I know this was not for this to happen. So I realized I started speaking up. Like, in the beginning of the journey, I would talk to him from my stairway. So I would be all the way at the top of the stairs, and he would be in the living room. So he couldn't see me, but he could hear me. And I realized that was like the inner child in me not confident enough to speak up to my father in ways that hurt me. And not even just him, what later trailed on to be like with men and relationships. So what ended up happening is that over the course of time, I began healing those parts of me, and I started confronting him from a space of love, but also in a way that I was confident and assertive. I was like making sense of everything. It wasn't like bullying. And I was also holding my children accountable too, because they weren't always right just because they were affected. So fast forward a year later, we're still here. And I'm like, okay, this is a very long time. And there was almost a situation that was promising, but it didn't fall through. So I was like, okay, God, obviously I'm not in control, so I'll just fall back. And I would definitely get a lot of different convictions about it. And it wouldn't be peaceful because I would be thinking about it all day when I'm trying to plan it in my head, how I'm going to work it out. So I wasn't really at peace throughout my day trying to be productive. And then fast forward, he started receiving benefits with kind of like, okay, I started seeing things looking up, and he was like applying to get income. But every time I was like, oh, okay, well, once you get income next month, you know what I mean? But that was even a long drawn out process. So just also understanding that I started to look at the situation differently. I started to change my heart about the situation so I could actually have peace and not be such in a hurry. And I think that was something that God was like working on within me as well. Like I healed those childhood wounds. Now let's focus on loving your father in his mess. So it came to a point where I was investing in his well-being. Like I was looking for caretakers. I was making sure he was getting rides from the hospital, or just making sure he had what he needed. Before it was more so like I'm opening a space to you, but that was it. Like I was coming and going, really not much that much interaction, but it became like, oh, this is my dad. Like I started to love him again for just who he is and not who I wanted him to be. So I really feel like giving up the control of the timeline allowed me to see what God's plans were. And it made things a lot easier with tolerating him for another 6 months. And we actually started having communication. We were binge watching the Chosen series together. It was just like different. Like, you know, I was able to have a relationship with my father in a way that I got to actually know him. When he was going through things business-wise, I was able to step in and provide some discernment. Like, you know, I don't think this business relationship is actually fruitful, and you should probably reconsider it. And then, you know, some people, like I said, are stuck in their ways, and he had to learn on his own, which it turned out to be a very sour situation. But I think that even being in a position to feel comfortable to address like an elder in that way felt relieving for me, because sometimes I can be a little inferior when people know more than me, or experience more than me. But I feel like God was like using this situation very intentionally for me. So no, I couldn't be in control, and I struggled with finding peace about it. But the more I gave up my idea of what it should look like surrender, peace started to come to me. Now, April of this year, things started to change. He got benefits and the things started working out. So I felt like a nudge from the Holy Spirit to like start investing in helping him transition out. And I did. I was taking him to apartments, looking at apartments, calling on his behalf, not on a more so base of you got to go, but I think it's just time. I think where I felt at peace at what the Lord was showing me in the situation. I felt like the assignment was complete, and I didn't receive any conviction about me stepping up now and actually moving on behalf of him finding another space. And I feel like God was saying, you know, you've been faithful, you endured, but now it's time. And I moved in that, and it came in love. It wasn't like, oh, let me hurry up and get you out of here like before. But now it was like that peace in it. Like, it actually is time. Like I really went through everything I need to go through to like walk away and transition out of this, and not from a space of, I don't want you here anymore. Even though, like I said, how I felt internally had changed, I realized his habits, his manipulations were still consistent. It's just how I view him had changed. And that was like, you know, the determiner, like, you know what, it really is time to transition. It became more about me protecting my peace now, because now I had it in the situation, and I didn't want something else to take it away, and my view of him had changed. So it came time to leave. He did not do what he needed to do to properly prepare to. So it kind of like stung a little bit for both of us, because I had to do things that maybe it wouldn't have made everybody else happy. And also he had to realize that I wasn't backing down on it this time. So I had to have him leave, and it wasn't easy. I had to book a hotel for him, and he was asking for extensions and things like that. But I've learned that let your yes mean yes and your no mean no. So going back on it would just further put me in a manipulating state, because I'm not standing my ground. It was relieving. I felt so much better. It was a lot of discomfort because family was calling and was like, can you give him some more time? And I'm like, no. No explanation. Like, no was a complete sentence, just no, because I had already received confirmation from God, and I had peace about it. So it was like, there's nobody else that can come into the situation and tell me that I'm not doing something in love. Like 16 and a half months is a very, very long time to be staying with someone, and for them to be using a lot of your resources with nothing to give back. So I knew I had completed my assignment, and internally I had peace about the situation. Internally, my even feelings towards him. Obviously, it didn't go well over him, because being a manipulator, you don't want someone to figure out their self-worth. You don't want someone to, they don't want someone to know, that this is not okay. So I still deal with that temporarily or semi. Every now and then there may be some type of manipulating tactic or some emotional manipulation to make me feel bad about my choice or that I did something wrong. But I trust that what comes from God, the peace that surpasses all understanding, was all that mattered to me. And although this story is primarily from like an intimate relationship I had with my father, I also saw this with like my girl's dad. Like there will be times where they'll send me like long paragraphs about something I said or a way that I would appreciate we co-parent, and they would like attack my character or find something to say like I'm not who I am, like I'm faking for, you know what I mean, just anything. And I realized like, oh, this will be a good moment to kind of, read somebody. But I was just like, you know what, God, I'm not even about to get into this. I'll leave them on red and not say anything back or not give into it. And I'll just watch God like just work it out. So if I can say something to someone who is also in this space of trying to be obedient and also searching for peace, I would say like don't let manipulation or false responsibility rob you of your obedience. If God's telling you to shift something for peace for you and your family or for you and your career or just anywhere in life, then just move on that and just trust that that feeling of peace that you're going to get from God matters more than other people's perception of you. And sometimes peace is just a result of a hard decision that honors God. So I knew I wasn't going to make everybody happy putting him out, without him actually having a place to stay. But it was what I was confirmed to do. And then let me tell you how confirmation works. I took them to the hotel, dropped them off, communicated, like, let them know where everything was. I wasn't dismissive. I wasn't like, oh, you gone. Like, I still operated in love. When I got home, I talked to my daughters, like, I really appreciate you guys, like, hanging in there with me for this 16 and a half months. I knew it was hard. I knew we had to endure a lot, but I really appreciate that. And they informed me about something that he told me elsewise. So it also just brought that confirmation, because if I would have extended his stay or did anything empathetic towards the situation, it was not actually built on an honest revelation. Like whatever he was revealing to me wasn't true because my children told me something elsewise. So it was just like confirmation from God through them as well that I made the right decision, because he was not focused on what he needed to be focused on. And I was no longer responsible for his lack of responsible decision making. So I want to leave you guys with this scripture, Philippians 4:6-7. It says, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts, your minds in Christ Jesus. If you feel peace from him, even in the hard places, trust that he will take care of the rest. So that was my situation, and it wasn't where I was in control, and it didn't feel good, I would say that, but it was what was needed. And understanding that peace is an inward feeling, not an outward just external saying. Like it's not something you just verbally express. It's like inside, because even when I wanted him to go, I still felt bad inside. Like, dang, I'm gonna just feel bad if I just put him back in the same position he was in when God told me to do this. So I had both. So I'm just thankful for that, and I pray that that blesses someone. Really, really blesses you, because there's a lot of relationships that you have to do what's best for you, whether it be jobs and you want to don't let people down. Especially for me, coming up as a people pleaser, it was hard. But I will say that God has definitely healed me in that area through that interaction with my father. So everything has purpose. As long as you're moving in obedience and not in your own control, that peace can be provided to you as well. So thank you guys for rocking with me with another episode of Growth Purposes Only. I pray that if you need community, that you find community. I pray that you're able to receive that, to know that it's okay to have boundaries. It's okay to be obedient, and it is okay to make hard decisions, and know that comfort is not the equal to peace. It's not going to always feel easy to do the right thing or do the hard thing. So remember, on your journey, it's spiritual, not personal. Grow gracefully.